So, when you think about the first English colonists arriving in America, what do you picture them packing? Besides the obvious stuff like tools and supplies. Turns out they carried something way more powerful, a set of ideas. Ideas about rights, about power, that would literally plant the seeds of a revolution. Let's dig in. Okay, just imagine this for a second. You've landed in a completely new world. Now it's your job, right then and there, to build a government out of nothing. I mean, where would you even begin? Who makes the rules? Who's in charge? It's a huge question. Well, and this is what's so fascinating. The colonists didn't really have to start from a blank page. They weren't just winging it. They actually brought a blueprint with them, a whole set of political ideas that had been hammered out in England over centuries of struggle and debate. So let's unpack that blueprint. We're going to start with the core ideas about rights and having a voice in your government. Then we'll see how those ideas got put to the test in the New World. And finally, we'll look at how England's own economic rules started to create some serious friction, the kind of friction that eventually sparks a fire. All right, first up, the blueprint itself. We're talking about the foundational concepts, the inherited wisdom the colonists used as their starting point for building a brand new society. So what's the first major pillar holding up this whole structure? It was a pretty radical idea back then, the belief that a government exists to protect the rights of its people, not just to serve the whims of a king. And listen, this wasn't some new idea they just cooked up. It had incredibly deep roots. We're talking all the way back to 1215 with the Magna Carta, which for the first time said that even the king had to follow the law. And then, centuries later, in 1689, you get the English Bill of Rights, which put even tighter limits on what a monarch could and could not do. All of this built up to one crucial, game-changing principle. By the late 1600s, it was pretty much settled. No single ruler, no king or queen, would have more power than the elected legislature. That shift, it changed everything. And that brings us perfectly to the second pillar of the blueprint, which is just as important. The whole idea of representative government, the belief that people should actually have a say in the laws that they have to live under. Just take a look at how the English Parliament was set up. Sure, you had the House of Lords, which was all nobles who inherited their positions. But the real engine of change was the House of Commons. This is where ordinary people, well, property-owning men, could actually elect representatives. The very concept that you could choose your own lawmakers, that was a seriously powerful seed to plant in a new world. Okay, so the colonists have this blueprint in their heads, but how do they actually put it into practice? I mean, it's one thing to have ideas, and another thing to build a working government thousands of miles from home. Well, it wasn't a one-size-fits-all situation. The colonies came in a few different flavors. You had charter colonies, basically run by companies. You had proprietary colonies, owned by a single person or a small group. And eventually, many became royal colonies, under the direct control of the king. But here's the key. No matter the structure, they all wove in those core English ideas of law and representation. Now, we have to be really clear about something. When we say representative government, we're not talking about democracy as we know it today, not even close. Generally, to have a voice, you had to be white, male, and own property. That means the vast majority of people, women, the poor, enslaved people, had absolutely no say. The circle of power was still very, very small. But even with all those restrictions, something really incredible was happening at the local level. Town meetings became this amazing training ground for democracy. Colonists would gather, they'd debate local issues, they'd vote on local laws. This wasn't just theory anymore. This was people getting hands-on experience in governing themselves. And that created a powerful, deep-seated belief in their right to do it. So you've got this growing spirit of political independence in the colonies, but at the same time, back in England, a totally different story is unfolding. They're not thinking about self-governance. They're thinking about cold, hard cash, and they're about to tighten their economic grip. The whole economic philosophy driving England at the time was called mercantilism, and the core idea is actually pretty simple. The most powerful nation is the wealthiest nation, and wealth, back then, meant one thing above all else: gold and silver. Colonies were seen as a key tool for piling up that treasure. So the game plan was pretty straightforward. Step 1, get as much gold as you can. Step 2, make sure you're selling more stuff to other countries than you're buying from them. And step 3, the big one, use your colonies as a cheap source for raw materials, and then turn around and sell your finished goods right back to them. It was a closed loop designed to make the mother country rich. To make sure this plan worked, England passed a bunch of laws called the Navigation Acts. The first big rule they laid down was that the colonists had to sell their most valuable goods, we're talking tobacco, sugar, lumber, only to England. It didn't matter if they could get a better price from the French or the Dutch. The law was the law. And it didn't stop there. Get this. The second rule was that if the colonists wanted to buy anything from another country, those goods had to be shipped to England first. And why would they do that? You guessed it. So England could slap a tax on them before they continued on their way to America. Now, for a while, the colonists kind of went along with this system. It did give them a guaranteed market for their goods, after all. But over time, this system of strict economic control started to clash, and clash hard, with their growing belief in their own right to self-rule. You could feel the resentment building. Colonists thought, hey, we should be free to make our own stuff and sell our products to whoever offers the best price. This frustration led a lot of merchants to just ignore the rules entirely and start smuggling goods in and out of the colonies to avoid English control. And this table just lays it all out perfectly, doesn't it? On one side, you have the colonists, who've been raised on these English ideas of having a voice, of governing themselves. And on the other side, you have England, demanding that they obey laws they didn't pass and basically just serve as an engine for the empire's wealth. These two worldviews were on a collision course. Which leaves us right here, with the central question that's going to define the entire next chapter of American history. When a people's deeply held belief in their own rights smashes up against a powerful system designed to control them, what happens next? Who wins?